Welcome back to The Source. My name is Mike Balsom. We continue to look at back to school here in September 2020. Joining us now in studio, we have the president of Niagara College, Sean Kennedy. Welcome to the program, Sean.
Thank you very much, Mike. It's a delight to actually be in the studio chatting with you today.
You and I chatted about the way things were going to look leading up to September 2020. We didn't meet in person, we spoke via Skype, but we talked a lot about, the college having to adapt to these new times. Can you tell us a little bit about what these last few days have looked like at both the Welland and Niagara-on-the-Lake campuses?
Certainly. Well, I can say that, first of all, what we were able to do last week in terms of having some of our students come back to campus in greater numbers was the result of an amazing amount of work by our faculty and staff over the preceding couple of months to really be ready. And the extent of our protocols in terms of safety protocols, daily health screenings, which are attached to either employee or student ID cards with restricted access points. We always know who's on campus when. Of course, things like extended cleaning protocols, extending the school days so we have less students and less people on campus, and everything else that you can imagine. There was just so much work and planning that went into it, which then resulted in a very successful first week of classes. We also added on both campuses outdoor tents, large outdoor tents, knowing that was another way of mitigating any risk in terms of transmission of COVID, so that students did things like, we called it curbside pickup for their books or their equipment. They were able to do, if they had an on-campus orientation, we did some orientation sessions out in the tent. So we used a lot of our outdoor spaces. Unfortunately, it was nice weather last week, so that students could do what they needed to do on campus, but not have to go into the buildings. And then this week, and as classes began, again, we have students in our different labs, primarily labs, because our focus really is to have students mostly online, but on campus for that hands-on learning as required.
You did some virtual orientations as well. I know my son, starting first year at Niagara College this week, and he had to do the virtual orientation. How did that go?
Very well, and I think we learned from things like convocation, where we figured out ways of interacting with students to try and at least, a hallmark of Niagara College always has been that ability to connect, to make students feel welcome. And so, we've adapted over time and learned over the last few months to figuring out ways to approach things virtually that still enable that sense of connection.
Sean, how many total students does Niagara College have between the two campuses?
So about half of our 9,000 students will have some component on campus. So about 4,500 students spread across both campuses, and then only for a portion of their program. So in terms of our total courses, 80% of our courses have been moved to remote virtual learning.
So the courses themselves are being 100% delivered virtually?
So that of the total courses that are being delivered, 80% will be fully virtual, and then 20% of the courses, those again with the need for that hands-on learning or lab experiences, those 20% will be offered across our two campuses. But we've also tried to extend the school day so that students, we don't have too large a group at any given point in time. I believe that the most we'll have at any kind of half block in a week will be in the 1,000 to 1,200 student range. But generally we'll have 500 or 600 or 800 students at a campus at any particular point in time. And then we also have designated and restricted access. So if a student only needs to go into a specific building, like the Rankin Technology building, they may only go into that. They have to tap in when they arrive and tap out when
So
they
each
leave.
student has one of these access cards?
Every student has to do a daily health screening, which is attached to their student ID card. And then when they go onto campus, they have to tap in, and that ensures that they've done the daily health screening and then are able to proceed. And then tap out when they leave campus so that we know who's in which building on which campus at any given point in time.
Are any students in the student residences right now?
We do. We have just about 80% of our residences occupied, but the students each student has their own bedroom. and then they're in two-bedroom suites. So if we're very careful. If there was an incident with one student, of course, the other student would have to self-isolate. But the fact that we had individual bedrooms that is our setup for our residences enabled us to proceed with having students in res.
Were there any courses over this time that had to be looked at and maybe canceled for this semester because of COVID?
We did postpone or defer some of our programs, but that was more of a result of enrollment demand. We really were able to figure out for any programs where there was enrollment demand a way to make it happen, either by moving it completely virtual or by a hybrid format of some on campus with the majority being still virtual.
How much feedback and back and forth did you have to have with the province, with the Ministry of Training, Colleges and Universities? I know that with the school systems, the elementary and secondary, there was a lot of back and forth between the Ministry of Education and the directors of education at the various boards. Was it similar in colleges and universities?
Probably not the same level of uniformity. The colleges and universities generally have a bit more independence, but certainly there was regular communication with the minister, Minister Romano, who's really done a tremendous job in making himself available and consulting with the college presidents and with ministry officials. But there wasn't the same level of kind of standardized approach. They did allow each college and university to figure out, working with their local public health, in Niagara Public Health, we've been in regular contact with. They've looked at our plans. They came onto campus, reviewed what our plans were, and gave us any feedback. Most of the feedback was they were impressed with what we had done, but they gave us some suggestions. So the overall provincial approach really was more of work with your local public health authority for colleges and universities to ensure that the right public health guidelines were being put in place.
One final question. What is being planned for January? When do you make a decision for semester 2?
Well, I can't commit to an exact date, but I do expect by the middle of October we'll make an announcement for what's happening in the winter so that we can give students and their parents time to plan and make sure that our courses and our ability to respond that we're ready and that we learn from what we're doing now. Our mantra really for this fall, and as it was during the spring when we had a pilot over the summer, we had a pilot program during the spring-summer semester, was really assess as we go along and then adjust. And we'll continue to do that and apply that to the winter term so we have the best mix of on-campus and online learning that we possibly can deliver.